What we'll be looking at today is on industrial combination, where we have CARTEL, trust, consortium, and along the line we also get to know what a parent industry is, parent companies and the subsidiaries. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe industrial combinations in Nigeria. Also state 5 functions or purposes of each of the industrial combinations that we have. When we are looking at the CARTEL, the trust, the consortium, we have the price range, forward integration and backward integrations. First of all, let's look at CARTEL. So that CARTEL is a monopolistic type of organization in which it's originally established by producers of similar products, just like we have our petroleum. You know that Nigeria is also it's part of a cartel which is opaque. You see, Nigeria, just like every other country that exports petroleum products, are part of the opaque organization. That organization which is opaque is a cartel. You see, all the members of that cartel that's opaque, they are exporters of petroleum products. You see, in this organization, they are independent producers. They are formed mainly for the purpose of regulating the price by controlling output. Members of cartel retain their separate identity and are independent. The price of products are increased so that it will force the price of their products up, to force the price of the commodities up. Features of cartel. The cartel is monopolistic in nature. It is established by independent producers of similar products. They allocate quotas to members. See, if you are given the quota is the quantity of products that you are allowed to produce. Quantity of product that you are allowed to produce and sell. If you produce more than that, you are being penalized by the organization. So you have to produce just what you were asked to produce so that the price of products will be increased, so that there will be artificial scarcity, so that price of products will be controlled and increased, because of course their aim is to make profit. See, they restrict output of commodities just like we just said now, in order to create artificial scarcity, to force the price of commodities up, and also to reduce or eliminate competition, because excess competition leads to wastage. Now let's look at the reasons for forming cartel. Number 1 is to keep up the price of products so that they won't be running at a loss. 2 is to ensure higher profits for members, and 3 to reduce waste by eliminating competition. 4 to regulate output. The next form of industrial combination that we have is trust. Trust, we say, is an amalgamation of different competing firms in different lines of business in order to under a single control. Trust, if we say we are looking at trust, we can look at an industry that makes shoes. An industry that makes shoes or a company that makes shoes can form a trust by bringing a company that makes leather to join or integrate with a company that makes sole, and also with a company that designs it. When all of these 3 companies come together, they form a trust. A trust will lose its identity, as the company that makes the sole and the leather will not be identified differently, but they'll be identified as the whole name. That's the parent name, the trust name, the trustee name is what will be known. Just like we've seen here that in trust, the firm will lose the identity and the trustee will take over the management and control. So it's the trustee that is being known. Now let's look at the difference between cartel and trust, because they are close. They are similar, but there are differences. Number 1, for cartel, we say that members still maintain their identity, just like Nigeria maintains its identity in opaque. So in cartel, members maintain their identity, but in trust, members lose their identity. Cartel is voluntary. You can withdraw. But trust is a complete measure, it's involuntary. Once you sign the agreement and you are part of the company, you either remain there or if you go, you are no more part of the trust. 3, we have that it's horizontal in structure for CARTEL. Horizontal, what do we mean by something to be horizontal? It means that it runs from left to right. Horizontal, left to right, meaning that all the members of a CARTEL are seen at the same level. They produce the same products and they also have the same hierarchy. They have the same order of importance. Under CARTEL, all the members are at the same level. Meanwhile, in trust, it's a vertical structure. If you are saying vertically, that's from top to bottom. Vertical, meaning that it's a step-by-step production in the trust. One person will walk from here to a point, another person will take up from that point to another point. Makes it a vertical structure. And also the order of management or importance is not the same. It's in hierarchy. One company is ahead of another in trust. In CARTEL, we have that there is no certificate that is issued, as in no certificate is issued in CARTEL. No certificate is issued in CARTEL, but in trust, certificates are issued. Well, for 5, producers are given quotas in CARTEL. That's number 5, the difference between CARTEL and trust. The producers are given quotas, meanwhile in trust, producers are not given quotas, because after all, it's a complete measure. Everybody works towards a particular aim. Now let's look at another form of industrial combination, which is consortium. The consortium is a group of independent firms formed to work on a particular product, which requires large resources and is too complex to be undertaken by just one firm. So in that case, they will form a consortium of 2, 3, 4 companies working towards a particular aim or working towards achieving a particular goal. And once that goal is done, the consortium is dissolved. So the consortium is also an association of firms that pool their resources together to finance a project they cannot embark upon individually because of its complexity or the capital outlay. An example of consortium is the bank that was given loan, that gave loan to African Independent TV as the AIT. They formed a consortium and financed AIT. Let's look at features or reasons for forming a consortium. Number 1 is to finance a project which requires large capital outlay. And 2 is when the project is complex in nature. You see, when something is too much for you to handle alone, you need more hands. You need other hands to help you out. Other forms of industrial combinations. Let's look at other forms of industrial combinations. We have the holding company. So that the holding company is that which acquires the whole or a large portion of the issued share capital of another company with the objective of actively controlling such companies. It should also be known that the holding company is purely a financial concern which uses its capital to acquire the controlling interest of another firm. What this means is that if company B or company A is buying over company B as a holding company, what it will do is that they will acquire 51% of its issued share capital. According to how decisions are being taken in the annual general meetings of companies, like I told you or like we discussed in our previous lessons, when we are looking at public limited companies and the private limited companies as the PLCs and the LTDs. Decisions are being made according to votes on decisions, because when a decision is being taken, they will cast a vote either to take it or not to take it. Decisions or voting is being done according to the amount of shares or the percentage of shares that you acquire in the company as a shareholder. So if company A is now a shareholder in company B and company A buys over 51% of the issued share capital with company B, it means that company A is automatically the parent or the holding company to company B, while company B is the subsidiary of company A. So that's what happens in a holding company. A holding company buys over the controlling interest of another firm. That's 51% of its issued share capital, makes it to have a controlling interest in that firm. A parent company is also called the holding company, just like we said, while the others whose shares have been acquired are the subsidiaries, as others whose shares has been acquired more than 51% of its issued shares are the subsidiaries. The subsidiaries company will retain their identities and name, but decisions are taken by the holding companies, in as much as they retain their identities and name. The higher rate of, or let's say the higher vote is casted by the holding company or the parent company. Another name for holding company is the parent company. Now we look at the price rings. Price rings is an association of or a number of competing firms who have agreed to operate on a common price policy for their competing products. For example, if Omo, Ariel, and Clean decide that 25 grams of their products should be 100 naira, they'll come together, they form a price ring, and then everybody, all of them will sell their 25 grams of detergent at 100 naira. That makes them price rings. It's a form of industrial combination. We look at syndicates. Syndicate is an association of organizations who work together for a common aim while retaining their independence. It's voluntary. It's something close to consortium. Syndicate is close to consortium, but it's different because once in syndicate, once the aim or the goal of coming together is being achieved, the association is no more together. The association is no more together. They will disengage from each other. So that's what makes syndicates different from consortium. We have merger and amalgamation. Merger is the combination or coming together of two or more previously independent firms to form one big firm. That's another form of industrial combination. So that the old firms will lose their identity and take up a new name. Let's look at reasons for merger. Number one is for a larger market share. To obtain a larger market share of the total market, or rather to obtain a larger share of the total market. See, when company ABC come together, the customers that were with company A or the loyalists of company A, B, and C will come together, and company D, let's say if the new company is now company D, will now be a compendium of company A, B, and C customers or members. So it makes it have a larger power, it makes it have a larger share of the total market. So you now look at the advantage, there will be advantage of economies of scale. You see, because of if we take your minds back to the law of costs, or we are looking at cost in production, you agree with me that the higher the production, the lower the unit cost. You see, it will cost you more to produce one pin than to produce 1,000 of pins when you now get to calculate the unit cost of production of each pin. One pin can cost you 10 naira, for example, but if you produce in bulk, let's say you produce 1,000 pins, and then you have to calculate the unit cost of one pin, you see that you may end up seeing 9 naira or 8 naira. So this is what companies enjoy when there is a merger or amalgamation. There will be advantage of economies of scale. You have efficiency. See, when more hands, we say when two heads, we always hear that two heads are better than one. So when more hands are employed into an activity, they will be more efficient. So that leads to efficiency. You have diversification. For example, if for in a trust company that produces shoe, it forms a trust of a leather company, a sole making company, and a designing company, means that the income of that trust will be diversified. So they no more make their money from one source, from just producing leather or sole alone, but they make their money from these various areas. So there's diversification of income. We have elimination of competition, especially if we are looking at opaque, as we are looking at CARTEL rather. When 5 or more independent organizations of similar products come together, they jointly make decisions, and with that there will be no competition. You know, competition leads to wastages. See number 6, that firms merge to ensure financial stability through internal growth. When we merge, when company A, B, and C, D, E, F, however the number you want, or however the number that is coming together, once they merge, they pull their resources together, and with that, it's impossible or difficult for them to fail, because one of the causes of failure in business is inadequate financing. Number 7 is to reduce the overhead cost of duplicate facilities because of between the two firms. Number 7 is, it's close to what we had in economies of scale, where we see that when firms merge, number 2 advantage, there will be advantage of economies of scale. So that overhead cost will be reduced, and to that reason they will now enjoy that economies of scale. So number 8, we have that firms may merge in order to obtain raw materials from direct source. That takes us to trust. You see, the raw material in shoe production, still using the shoe making factory as an example, the raw materials in shoe production is leather and sole. So if a trust is being formed, a trust as a form of merger in this case is being formed, it means that the company will have direct source of leather, direct source of sole. It cannot run in shortage of stock. So let's look at disadvantages of merger. Number 1, it will lead to monopolistic situation. As in CARTEL, for example, when independent firms come together and then form a cartel, let's say a firm that was producing Gary, if Gary can be such that all the producers come together, there will be a day that they will come up and then decide to sell one bag at 100,000 naira, and nothing will happen because all the members producing Gary are together, isn't it? So that's a monopolistic situation, that's monopolistic tendency. So it's very possible in merger. So that's one of the disadvantages of merger, it can lead to monopoly. Number 2 is that merger can lead to unemployment since duplicate facilities between the two firms are eliminated. For example, we can't have 2 administrative departments in the new organization, because once 2 organizations merge, either it's as a form of trust or let's say as a form of consortium, we can't have 2 admin departments. One department will be designated as admin department. So for that reason, some of the staff that were working in the admin department will now be retrenched, they will be sacked. So it will lead to unemployment. Another disadvantage of merger is that it does not encourage specialization, like in the case of trust. You see, still using the shoemaking as an example, a firm that used to produce leather alone, or that used to produce sole alone, will now come to produce shoe. And you know the advantages of specialization. You were taught that specialization leads to efficiency. When you are not specialized in a particular field, you turn to be a jack of all trades. You'll be a master of none. So it will lead to inefficiency if you are not specialized. So that's the problem that organizations stand to encounter in merger. And then 4, we have that since there is no competition, quality of products may be compromised, of course, because nobody's after you. So in that case, you are not competing with anybody. So you feel wherever you stop is where everything ends. So you are not pushed to improve on your product. Let's look at terms that are frequently used whenever we are discussing about industrial combination. We have group. Group is an association of companies that are linked by some degree of common ownership or control. It's composed of, let's say, a group of firms. We have whenever you hear of a group, it means that one company or one organization or one body controls the activities of every other organization. For example, a holding company acquiring 4 or 5 subsidiaries of 4 or 5 other companies, of which those 4 or 5 other companies are the subsidiaries. That makes it a group of companies. Where if, for example, I acquire 5 companies, it means that the 6 companies plus mine is a group. So if you hear of a group, you know that it's a holding company and its subsidiaries that makes up a group. Then we have subsidiary. Subsidiary is a company in which a holding company has a controlling interest by acquiring more than 51% of its shares. For that reason, the holding company, of course, will have its controlling interest in the subsidiary, because whenever they are having a meeting and then there is an opinion to vote for, it's that of the holding company that will count, because they already have 51% of the votes. So it means it's only their own opinion that will be valid. So that's what makes it a holding company, and that's what is called by controlling interest, because you have more than 51% of the interest of the shares that are issued by a company. So it makes the holding company to have a controlling interest. We have a parent company. Parent company is also a holding company. So that is a holding company that has control over a number of firms known as the subsidiaries. You have forward integration, just as it implies. Forward. This is when a firm that's manufacturing it integrates with a firm that is selling. As you can see, in this case, the movement is forward. It's a forward movement. You manufacture and then you now integrate with a firm that will sell it, of which is a movement towards selling. So that makes it a forward integration. You also have backward integration. When a firm merges with a firm that gives it with another firm that supplies it with the raw materials, that's a backward integration. Just as it is, you are moving backwards to get the raw materials. So that's a backward integration. It's another term that is frequently used whenever we are discussing about industrial combination. Now let's see how much we've been able to learn. Try to ask yourself these questions and then answer them yourself. See, what is business major? It's simple. It's simply the coming together of 2 or more businesses in order to achieve a particular aim. That's business major. Because you discuss the disadvantages of business major, you try to explain on your own trusts, price range, consortium, and cartel. And there's an assignment for you. It's for you to write short notes on trade association and chambers of commerce, because this will help you. Go and research, read more on trade associations and chambers of commerce. Do have a nice time reading from home, or learning from home rather. And send your feedback through the designated channels given by the school. Bye.